We'd like to welcome everybody in to On Scene with RCSO. I'm one of your hosts, Lieutenant Lucas Grant.
I'm Lieutenant Kimberly Lee.
We would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in with us. And remember, if you are watching our show, please hit that like button and subscribe, and please share so that everyone else can get some of this information that we are trying to get out to each and every one of you. But we want to start with the zone report. Of course, the 9 p.m. routine is where we definitely always want to start, because we want to make sure that you are locking up your vehicles and your home so that you don't come in contact or at the risk of someone being able to come in and take your valuable things.
And as we discussed earlier, I was out of town earlier this week, and I wasn't able to participate in the 9 p.m. routine in person, but I was able to do that by setting up my lights to come on at 9 o'clock, and they went off at a specific time. But if you are going to be, it's almost summertime. The kids are getting out of school. People are going on vacation. So let someone you know that you trust, maybe a neighbor or something, let them know that you're going to be out of town. Maybe if you get deliveries during that time, or just your mail, just to make sure that it looks like there's some type of activity going on, and there's not packages and things that are just kind of stacking up at your house for the time period that you're not going to be there.
Absolutely. And I know we are going to talk a little bit about these new BOLOs that we have. So, Lieutenant Lee, if you would talk about the one that you have.
All right. Yeah. So we have a most recent BOLO for a missing person, Mr. Bruce Damon Barker Jr. He's 43 years old. And Bruce Barker was last seen sometime in early March on the 2600 block of Millersville Road. He did reach out to a family member by phone on April 1st, but he wouldn't tell anybody where he was. Mr. Barker has cerebral palsy. He has little to no use of his left hand. He is known to frequent the 2600 block of Millersville Road, the 1700 block of Kissenbauer Road, and the 2400 block of Riceboro Road. So if anyone has any information on the whereabouts of Mr. Barker, if you saw him, if you think you saw him, please contact the Sheriff's Office at 706-821-1080.
And we also want to talk about Gregory Lewis Thornton. Mr. Thornton was involved in a homicide that happened on the 700 block of Broad Street on March 28th, 2023, where the life of a 13-year-old was taken. And, of course, when these things happen, the community is traumatized, and because of the life that's been taken. But if you have come in contact with Mr. Thornton or know the whereabouts of Mr. Thornton, please remember he's considered armed and dangerous. But please contact the Sheriff's Office so that we can locate him and take him into custody.
And he does have warrants on file through this agency, and he is believed to be in Maryland. So if you come in contact with him in another jurisdiction, because the thing is, if he went from Augusta, Georgia to Maryland, he can go somewhere else, especially if he knows that someone is looking for him. So contact that police department or sheriff's office in that jurisdiction so they can know, because he does have warrants on file. So if they do come into contact with him, they will pick him up on those warrants. So he has family members or he has friends. Someone knows where he is. And we encourage you to reach out to the Sheriff's Office to just let us know where he is.
And remember, no information is too small. No matter if you have the smallest detail, please contact us, because that may be something that we don't have and that can help us locate them. But moving forward to our upcoming events, on May the 2nd, May the 5th, we will have our Fort Gordon Safety Day. That'll be located at Fort Gordon starting at 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. On May the 9th, we'll have Fentanyl Awareness Day. That'll be at 3421 Mike Pageant Highway starting at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. On May the 10th, we will have Shred Day. That will be located at 401 Walton Way from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We will also have on May 19th citizen surveys. That's where you can go out to Bobby Jones Expressway, and that will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. where you can fill out the surveys to whether you can recognize a deputy that's done a great job or just talk about things that you would like to see better within the community.
And again, we talk about community engagement all the time, and that's the reason for this platform. But that is a way to go out and meet the deputies and investigators and the staff here at the sheriff's office. And it's, like we said, it's always important to get to know them. And what I want to do is I want to now talk about a few of our deputies who have gone above and beyond, and they receive commendations from the sheriff. Any commendations or years of service awards, things like that, that can be found on our website. And also, if you want to give any commendations, you can also call the sheriff's office, speak with someone in community services, and there's also a form. But on March 17th, 2023, Deputy Nora Johnson was en route to the hospital with a subject when Deputy Johnson was flagged down by a motorist on the 3200 block of Deansbridge Road. That motorist was in distress because her infant child could not breathe. Deputy Johnson instructed the female motorist to pull over. He stopped behind her and exited his vehicle. As he approached, the female frantically exited the vehicle with a near lifeless child struggling to breathe. Deputy Johnson quickly called for EMS to be dispatched and then referred to his training. Deputy Johnson began performing necessary life-saving skills to include the infant Heimlich maneuver. After several attempts, the infant began to breathe and then cry. Deputy Johnson then handed the child back over to its mother. Deputy Johnson turned the mother and child over to EMS. Once they arrived, he then returned to his vehicle and continued with his original transport. When asked about the incident, Deputy Johnson replied humbly, "It's just part of my job." Deputy Johnson's selfless service and dedication to duty reflects great credit upon himself and the Richmond County Sheriff's Office and is therefore worthy of recognition. And that's one of the things that happens. He was on his way to something totally different. And when he finished, he got back in his patrol vehicle and continued on to where he was going. And that's what most of our deputies, they'll do. They'll answer a call, and once they finish that, they'll go on to the next one. So we want to highlight Deputy Noah Johnson for his life-saving of the infant. And I'm sure the mother is very gratefully appreciative to Deputy Johnson. And 2 days later, actually on March 19th, 2023, Deputy Faith Cup, Deputy Crystal Battle, and Deputy Austin Swiger responded to a vehicle crash in the parking lot of the post office located at 3301 Riceboro Road. Upon deputies' arrivals, they found a gray Kia rolled over on its roof with an elderly driver still seated belted upside down in the vehicle. The driver was unresponsive. The three deputies were able to get the driver out of the vehicle and found her unresponsive. They started CPR and continued until EMS arrived. Sergeant Cody Turner, a 14-year veteran of the Augusta Fire Department, certified EMS and CPR instructor, stated the three deputies were given high-quality CPR. Due to the deputies' quick and effective efforts, return of spontaneous circulation was obtained. The driver was transported to AUMC, and their life-saving efforts were also commended. And like I said, that's 2 days within each other. So it's not just they went on to their next call too. They finished that up and they went on to their next call. So we want to appreciate them and just know that we highlighted them, but this is what happens on a regular basis. Most of our calls, our deputies go, they handle the job, and they move right on to the next call. So,
absolutely, and I'm glad that you brought them to the show today to recognize them, so that everyone can get an opportunity to hear these amazing stories about them. And not only just them, like you said, so many of our deputies that do this on a consistent basis, but these stories don't get out, and that's what this platform is all about. We want you to know the things that go on a daily basis within the sheriff's office, provide you the information and knowledge about the sheriff's office. And this right here, as a supervisor, makes me smile very big, warms my heart, because these individuals are out in our community serving and protecting day in, day out, and not even asking for any recognition. But we want to bring forth the recognition for them because they do a great job day in and day out. Okay. But we also want to talk about the Kalia portal. Please go to that. That's on all of our social media sites, where you can leave a comment, whether that's about another recognition, something that you may see that you want to see improved upon here in the community, or if you have something that you just want to say, please go there and comment on there.
And also, we talk about recruitment. We had Lieutenant Mark Chastain talking about his recruitment efforts and things like that. So if you have any questions about joining the sheriff's office, please call us. You have someone to talk to. You met him last show. If you hadn't, go back and watch that. But Lieutenant Chastain is always ready and eagerly ready to talk to you about joining the sheriff's office. So you can also come down to the sheriff's office, fill out an application, or on the website. You can get more information if you have any questions about that. We have that available on our website for you to go to.
So today we have coming up for you our special guest, Chief Patrick Clayton. He's going to be a treat. So I ask that you all stay tuned, as he is a loved guy and a very knowledgeable guy. And he is one of our executive command staff members who we are grateful to have. We're here today with our special guest, Chief Patrick Clayton. Thank you for being here with us today.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, we've got you here today because we want to make sure our viewers are informed about a lot of things that are going on here at the sheriff's office. But not only at the sheriff's office, also out in different divisions that we have here at our jail, court services, administrative side of things, and operations side of things. So we know that you handle the operations side of things, being the chief deputy here at the sheriff's office. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Well, if you would just introduce yourself to our viewers here today and let them know a little bit about you.
Well, obviously everybody knows my name's Pat Clayton. I've been a 44-year career law enforcement person. I've been with this agency now going into my 11th year.
Okay.
I spent a bulk of my career with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and kind of made my way after I retired from the DEA in 2010 towards Richmond County.
Okay. And I know you are one of the driving forces for the podcast. We all sit on the command staff. You're at the executive command staff level. And one of the things that you wanted to do is for us to find a way to tell our story. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate you just putting that challenge out to us. Mm-hmm. But why was it important for you to kind of put that call out to find reasons to tell the story of Richmond County Sheriff's Office?
Well, one of the things is in the current climate that we find ourselves in, and I did see this back in the 70s when I was a kid with my father was a police officer, and we come under a lot of scrutiny now. I tell the deputies all the time that they probably have to know 10 times what I knew when I was coming up, mm-hmm. and they have 100 times more scrutiny. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think I've seen is that law enforcement altogether in the country is not really telling their own story. They're letting the media dictate the narrative, and that isn't necessarily correct most of the times.
That's right.
And I'll give you one example because it came up this week on the issue of transparency. Broke open my paper the other day on the Augusta Press, and I see they're talking about the sheriff, talking about him not being transparent. He is one of the most transparent sheriffs I've ever seen of any agency. First of all, he and I together, we were the first ones 14 years ago that introduced body-worn cameras to the area. First at the Board of Education, Police, and then when we came here at the Sheriff's Office. And also, what you see is there's a double standard. There's a double standard for the sheriff, and there's a separate standard for everybody else. A good example would be like they want to challenge his transparency. We put out things, whether they're good or bad, right away.
Yes.
All the time. And we got other agencies that don't. We got other agencies, for example, one of our sister agencies here, they don't have body-worn cameras because they say, oh, it's, quote, only shows one angle. And so it's just very laughable to me that they do this kind of thing. And I'll bring up one last thing. We got another a sheriff at a neighboring agency that he's under some scrutiny right now. But there's only one news outlet, Channel 12, that has said anything about some of the things that have been going on about him. If that was my sheriff, Sheriff Roundtree, that would be the lead story for the next couple of weeks. And again, I just point out that all we've asked from the media is treat us fairly.
And I do know when we have our media meetings, one of the things that you did ask them for is when they're doing comparisons when it comes to the crime rates and things like that. Yours is compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And just in this area, we are the largest sheriff's office here, but our socioeconomic makeup is a little different also from the other neighboring agencies. So that's one of the reasons, again, why we want to let people know where we are, what we're doing, and what we're doing, as far as operations about those things. So.
Yes.
So you've been, you talked about being in this business for 44 years. That's a very long time. But being here for about 11 years. Just kind of tell us about your accomplishments here at the Sheriff's Office and what you're most proud of.
Well, I think one of the things I think I'm most proud of over the last going on 11 years is our operational tempo. I will tell you that I think that when you see a black and gray uniform after you, it strikes fear in the hearts of criminals here in this area because guess what? We catch them. When you look at our homicide rates, for example, our clearance rates, 83%. The national average is 56%.
Oh, wow.
And even on property crimes, it's our clearance rates are 32%. Which don't sound real good, but that's double the national average of 15%. So we catch the bad guys, and our deputies, they deal with, like in this region, there's no other agencies that do what we do. If you look at Columbia County, it's mainly a bedroom community. If you look at, Burke County, you were talking about a rural type area. And Aiken County is starting to deal with some of the same things that we deal with, but we are kind of the big dogs in this area here, and we make it happen. I will tell you, I've really been impressed all my years, and even before I was with the Sheriff's Office, with the operational tempo of the Sheriff's Office, and nobody does it better than we do. And again, our deputies, I can't take my hat off to them enough, the great job that they do.
And we got a shout out from Governor Kemp, actually at the conference that we were at, talking about some of the efforts that we've done with the gang task force and things like that. So despite some of the challenges that they like to talk about, the staffing shortages and things like that, we still come out and we still show up, and we still do our job. So.
Yes, and he did. He talked about Ghostface. He came to the conference where all three of us were at, and specifically mentioned Sheriff Roundtree, and specifically mentioned the Ghostface case, saying that it's the largest gang case in the history of Georgia. So I'm proud of that as well.
You know, Chief, I want to go ahead and pat myself on the back because you did talk about the homicide clearance rate. You know, and I was a part of that division for 4 years, so I really appreciate you giving me a shout out right there.
It was just for you, buddy.
But we have, you know, faced some challenges here. And I want you to talk a little bit about it, especially when it comes down to vacancies that we have. Situations we have at our jail where we're having to be involved with arresting our own. But if you could talk a little bit about, we'll start at the vacancies that we're having to deal with here at the Sheriff's Office.
Well, just keep in mind that it's not just us.
It's correct.
This is across the United States. The Police Executive Research Foundation, the sheriff and I both are members of, they track these statistics, and in the last year, we've had a 45% increase in retirements in law enforcement throughout the country, and we've had a 20% increase in resignations. And I will tell you that this is a tough environment to be a police officer now. There's and I think that the things that we're dealing with, I saw it when I was a kid, because the same kind of things were going on around the country. But now, with mass media and social media, like especially with our younger deputies, it bombards them daily with this negativity towards law enforcement. And it's one of the things that we as leaders, we got to continue to make them understand that this is still the noblest occupation in the world.
Right.
We're people, and especially the younger deputies, they step up to protect people every day.
Absolutely.
And go in harm's way for other people. And it's a noble profession, and we've got to keep on emphasizing that. But it's a challenge that we're going to be dealing with for probably the next 5 to 10 years, I think.
Yeah. And you were talking about transparency with the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Roundtree himself, which is good because, as you know, like you said, he is very transparent and he wants the good or the bad to be brought forth. If you could talk a little bit about just some of the issues we've had here recently over the past few months where we've been having to arrest our own so that the viewers understand a little bit better what's going on and why it may be going on.
Well, first of all, one of the things I will tell you is we have an aggressive intelligence unit, and we have an aggressive internal affairs division, and we have an aggressive investigative unit. And we're not going to sit there. I'll give you an example. Bibb County, they had a shanking about a year and a half ago where a deputy was killed. And one of the things that the sheriff and I want is we do not want to see any of our deputies seriously injured or worse like that. And what I will tell people, and I will tell the citizens, is that, first of all, there's a lot of other agencies that where they're investigating somebody, they might try to force them to resign or something like that, or kind of sweep it under the rug. We don't do that.
That's right.
If we got somebody and they're committing criminal activity, we're going to catch them, we're going to prosecute them, or we're going to feed them with the same spoon that everybody gets fed with.
Correct.
So, when people talk about that, I think they need to realize we're out there making sure we ferret out any kind of corruption or any kind of malfeasance on our deputies, and we deal with it.
That's right. That's right.
And that's just, and just like the sheriff said, that's just a small percentage of our sheriff's office.
Absolutely.
Most people come to work every day. They do their job. They go above and beyond their job, and they go home and they come back right back and they do it again. So despite those challenges, we're doing everything to weed those people out of the profession, not just here, because we don't want them to resign and go somewhere else too, and then be that cancer somewhere else. So
Absolutely.
We're not just doing it for our agency, but when we hear things like that, and you talk about the Internal Affairs Division, which is the division I work for, also the PIO, we do, and the sheriff and yourself we want to get on top of things early to get it out to the media. And there's sometimes we have a delay, and it's like, hey, where's that media release? Where's that? Let's get that out. So that he is one of the most, in this office is one of the most transparent offices that we have across, I think, the CSRA. So one thing I know that you go in front of the commission a lot, especially in past months, because of the jail. We've asked for funding for the jail, and there are some things that we see, or when I say we, the command staff and you as leaders, see as the future of what's going on with COVID. A lot of people in the jail. We have a very aggressive investigative unit. So we arrest people, and they end up in our jail. So kind of talk about the funding challenges that we've had with the sheriff's office, trying to get additional funds to help with some of that overcrowding and things like that.
Well, we've, as you might imagine, like Richmond County, first of all, is not one of the most affluent counties. I live over in Columbia County, for example, and I think we usually run about 6th to 8th out of 159 counties in the state as far as affluence. But in this county, we're usually in the bottom 30%. We were talking about Columbia County. I live in Evans. The average family median income is $112,000. Here in Richmond County, it's $43,000. And so it's a big difference. Significance difference. So I do realize that the commission, they face challenges as far as money and resources. But I will tell you that since I've been here for the last going on 11 years now, you never get the feeling that law enforcement is a priority. If you surveyed most of the citizens, if you asked them what their priorities are, they would tell you public safety, public safety, public safety. But and time again, what we've run into with the commission, I'll talk about generally, and then I'll give you an example on salaries and raises. They will give us a raise that'll bring us in par with some of the outlying agencies. We never have the highest paid, although our deputies, they do
the most work.
They do 2 or 3 times more work, and they take 2 or 3 times more risk. But what they'll do is they'll give us a raise, and then what they'll do is they'll let us languish for anywhere from 3 to 5 years before we get another substantial raise. And now we're the lowest paid agency in the area. Other thing with the jail, we've been dealing with overcrowding for most of the time I've been here. And we've been asking the commission in the last 2 SPLOST projects, which they do them 4-year rotations, the sheriff has asked for a new pod. Get us about another capacity for about 250 more people. And the last time, for example, they thought a water park over in Diamond Lakes was more important than getting us a pod. And what's frustrating for me is when we ask for things for our deputies and for this agency and for example, the jail, and it's frustrating because you know what you need, but you tell them, and it goes on deaf ears. And we have got to do a better job of that as far as dealing with that and dealing with resources. And I will tell you that I just think as long as they have the current, where they have basically 10 commissioners that are running the government, we're never going to be able to elevate. I think unless you start come up with more of a stronger mayor type system, I think that we're going to continue to deal with these issues for years to come.
And there are, and we talk about foresight and just vision and things like that. And again, we'll go back to your 44 years. But you are retiring December 31st.
Yes.
And I asked you, were you taking the whole month of December off? And you said that you will be working up until your last day. What do you want to accomplish for this agency, for this community, in your last months here at the sheriff's office?
For one, I want to finish getting the downtown camera underway. We've already got a 300 flock cameras that we have. We'll do that downtown camera system, and this is going to be a game changer in the future for this agency. For example, with that, like a downtown camera, system and the flight cameras, like what we'll have the capability to do, and this is a vision for the future. And the way I look at it is now I'm planting the seeds. I'm not going to be here to see the fruits, but I'm going to tell you that we'll have it where a deputy will get a call, armed robbery going down at a CVS or whatever, or stop and rob. It'll automatically pop up on his car on his MDT. You'll be able to see it. We'll be able to start zoning in on them. You'll be able to actually mark their car or them when they go on foot, and we'll be able to track them through the cameras.
Oh, wow.
And we'll actually be able to, for example, like in the downtown camera system, when we get the facial recognition software, we'll be able to know who all the gang members, for example, and we'll be able to put like a geo fence up in the downtown area. We know where the gang members are coming in and going out.
Correct.
And things like that. So the capabilities are just unlimited, and I think I want to get that done. And we're going to do a full-scale exercise on a mass casualty active shooter type event. I want to get that done, and I'm also I'm trying to get us to get a jiu-jitsu program going that we're working with training right now, and that's to one of the things that the sheriff and I have noticed, and the command staff we've talked about, is we've got the tasers. But we don't want to put an over-reliance on the tasers, and we want to get the deputies to go hands-on in some situations where they can better control the situation and keep from having to use a taser.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid that, and I think jiu-jitsu will help them to learn how to control people, especially in ground fighting type of situations that we frequently find ourselves in. And the last thing is succession planning. I want to make sure I help the sheriff, which we've been working on that ever since we've been in the succession planning. And again, planting the seeds. I'm not going to be here for the fruit, but at least I can help plant the seeds.
Okay.
You're very big on engagement, and that's something you've been talking with not only the command staff about, but also the operation side of things, and it has started to go a very long way where someone like myself or Lieutenant Lee during our, let's say, night command run where we get the opportunity to go out to the jail or ride with deputies just to get a chance to know who they are, they can learn who we are. What brought this on when you decided to move towards that?
Well, it's I've always believed in that, and one of the things I think we do, unfortunately, is sometimes when we start going up in the ranks, we tend to try to insulate ourselves from people, and we can't do that. If anything, we've got to get more engaged with them, because what you find is especially the higher you go up in the ranks, people don't want to give you bad news. And so one of the things I've did, and I've did it ever since I've been here for 10 years, and I did it when I was over at BOE, is I go out and I spend time with everybody, not just the deputies, but other divisions and stuff, trying to get a sense of are they, what are they seeing? Is the information they have, is it getting up to me? And also is the information that I'm trying to put out to them, is it getting down to them? And I will tell you, in about 70% of the situations, I'm finding that the information is getting to them and their information is getting to me. But, sometimes I'll go ride with the deputies, for example, and usually I do it on the weekends because that's about the only time I have a chance. And some of the things they'll be telling me, I'm sitting there saying, why haven't I heard about this? Or why haven't you heard about this? Or I'll ask them, what do you know about this? Or it's something we talked about in command staff.
Right.
And sometimes it'll be like they're dumbfounded.
Right.
And so that's part of the reason I think everybody has to be more engaged. And if you look at the deputies of today versus years ago, they want to be engaged. They want to be developed.
Yes.
And that is a responsibility that we have to take. And again, it's about planting seeds. If I'm developing the deputies, if I'm developing them, that's going to be something that's way for the future. And I had a deputy last week that they came to command staff where they received their award, and they listened to some of the stuff that we talked about, and they go, well, what are the things that you need for us to do? I said, well, what I need for you to do, and it's part of procedural justice, is I need you to make sure that you treat well, and I kind of went by the command staff first. I said, me and the sheriff, we got to treat the command staff fair and just. And then the command staff has to treat the first line supervisors fair and just. And then the deputies have to treat the civilians and the citizens fair and just. And if everybody does that, everything will fall into place.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's part of a legacy that we talk about. Any training you go to, conference, things like that, they talk about what your legacy is going to be. And with you leaving, I'm sure that's something you talk about, planting those seeds and your legacy. And one of the things that I know and I notice that you're always reading. And that's one thing that has inspired me to, like, if you take the time out, I don't know if it's an hour a day, because you're a busy guy, or whenever you do it, if you take the time out and you have that discipline about yourself to want to know more about this profession, because that's what it is. It's not a job, it's a profession. Then that's something that I need to do. And then hopefully that's something that, people see me and, become more knowledgeable about this profession. Because like I said, you've been in the profession for a very long time. But your legacy will live on. And people don't realize, whether it's good or bad, those seeds are going to be planted, and what comes out of that is what people will know. So I do appreciate even getting to meet you. We've talked several times just about things outside of this profession. So like I said, you'll be on so many more times before December. And I joked about a farewell show, but maybe, we'll do that. But I do appreciate the seeds that you're planting and things like that for future generations to come.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for having me on. And, like I told you, I hope, one of the things I'd like to be said about me when I'm gone is just, they say he was a nice guy. He tried to help me. And I think if you can do that, at the end of the day, you've had a good life.
Well, that'll definitely be said about you, because you help so many in a short amount of time here at this agency. And I know someone like myself, Lieutenant Lee, is very appreciative to have you here in a leadership role in this agency, because you've accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time. But as we get ready to come to the end of this segment of our show, Chief, we definitely want to say thank you again, and we look forward to having you again.
Thanks for having me. I'd be glad to come back.
All right.